and everything we do and say would be pleasing to you in Jesus' name. Amen. Roll call, Shelley.
Mike Dobbins.
Here.
Dora Petzkowski. Here. Sasha Black Fox Claus. Danny Callison. Here. Julia Coates. Here. Joe Deere. Kevin Easley. Here. Lisa Hall. Here. Johnny Kidwell. Here. Daryl Legg. Here. Kendra McGady. Here. Cody Poindexter.
Honey.
Joshua Sam. Here. Mike Shambaugh. Here. Malvina Shotpouch. E.O. Smith. Here. Condessa Teehee. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Shelley. On to reports, Claremore Service Unit, George Vallier. I see no evidence of George. Oh, there's.
I'm happy to take any questions for George or the Claremore Service Unit at this time.
Any questions for George that Brooke can take back to him? I see none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, Dr. Jones, Cherokee Nation Health Services.
All right, good afternoon.
So,
We're going to change up the way I do the report just a little bit this time. I'm going to add a little information. After speaking, Speaker and I had a conversation. He would like me to share a little more information, so I'm going to try to do that this time. So if there's something that comes up as I go through this, we need to stop and talk about it, please, at your will, Chair, if you'll want to stop me, that's great. If not, we can wait till the end, so it's up to you. Just let me know. First thing is about the report. Let's just kind of go through the report there. It's in your packet. You'll notice that in the month of December, we had 5,245 patients seen in our emergency department. That's a record. That is a record, and we expect to break it in January. So you have January reports not out. You haven't seen that yet, but that just shows how much flu season is impacting us. I know we had a vaccine, but I don't know that the vaccine was as effective as it maybe has been in the past, because we've had a record number of flu this year and in our health system. So that's a reflection of that. You'll also see that we had over 200,000, I think 209,000 prescriptions filled. That's also banging up against a record there. So that just gives you an idea of how many prescriptions our pharmacy is filling every month. They're averaging around 200,000, so that's a lot of prescriptions to fill every month, and it's a very busy department. Third-party revenues holding steady despite the fact that we've had a decrease in the eligibility in some of things like Medicaid. Medicaid eligibility has changed a lot since the emergency enactment from COVID went away, and so we have a lot of folks in our system that we're working with to find third-party. We have a whole group that does that daily. So we're working very hard on that. And we've been able to keep the revenue up because the volumes have been up so much. So you'll see that we haven't seen a dip that we expected to see at this point. Let's see here. And our referrals rate is up to 98%. I think that's an increase from where we've been in the past. I think we were around 67 or 96 to 97. We were up to 98 this month in December. Service trends, and you see that left without being seen trended up just a little bit, even though those numbers are still very, very small. We expect that when we have as much flu as going on. A lot of people show up maybe in our ED and get registered in and then decide or get transferred over to our urgent care, or they may decide to go to urgent care. And if they do leave our services before we get to see them, they go on the record as left without being seen. We monitor that weekly and monthly. And let's see, surgical services, we had a little bit of a drop. We always do during the holidays, but admissions went up. So we typically see that during the holidays also. So you see that there. And then the dental program you can see is an increase from month over month and year over year. We continue to increase in our dental department. On to updates, we have construction updates. So our hospital continues to be on track. We're already starting to plan for transitions. We're a little over a year out from when we expect to be moving into the hospital. So our teams have been looking at transition status and how we can start training. It's not only about how we deliver care, but how we take over that facility. And our FM group, the people who deal with fire safety and all those things, looking at where exits are. We're already starting to make plans for that and how we're going to train our employees before we go into that building. So that's ongoing all the time and will be for the next year before we move in. It's a very complicated and massive undertaking for the hospital, obviously. And we can't just shut our doors at Hastings one day and open them over in the new hospital the next. There's going to have to be a transition period where we slowly start to move patients over, and those, as we discharge, will readmit in the next hospital. So a lot of planning going on there. At Salina, we're getting closer to move-in date there. Obviously, we've talked about it a little bit. We moved our move-in date up, and so we're very deep into the transition there and what it's going to look like when we start opening for business at Salina. We also, on all of our projects, I guess the residential treatment facility has just started. That's kind of on pace. It's still in the beginnings. That's the one out here south of town, so just let you know that that is still on track and moving. I don't mention that very often because it's still in its early phases. But the other thing that we're having to really monitor right now is the threat of these tariffs and how they're going to affect us. Because a lot of our equipment comes from overseas. A lot of our computer equipment comes from Mexico. We have head walls that we purchased for the hospital that come from Canada. So we're monitoring this to see what things we can move up and go ahead and do the purchasing before the potential of a tariff would kick in and drive our cost up. That's something that you don't really think about, but we have to think about. So those are things we're monitoring currently right now and moving up what we can. The other thing I want to point out is it's all the things that we're doing with construction, transitions, things of that nature, they are extra duties that are going on to our staff. So I want to give a shout out and give some recognition to our facilities staff. They work tirelessly on looking at all the new things that are coming out for our new buildings, looking at what we're going to have to be doing when we take them over, on top of their regular duties. And I just took a month's worth of work orders just to give you an idea of how much work they're doing. In the last month, there was 1,374 work orders just in health. 1,250 were closed, which mean were completed, and there was 881 project management or preventive maintenance things that came up last month. Every month they have so much preventive maintenance they have to do on top of the work orders. And of those, 865 were closed. So that group's doing tremendous work, and they work tirelessly day after day to keep everything running. And they're the behind-the-scenes stuff you don't see every day whenever you come into our facilities. Biomed's another group. That's the people who keep all of our equipment running, all of our medical equipment running. They don't get talked about very much. But that group also has a big job because without our equipment, we can't do our patient care. So in the last month, 154 work orders, 125 completed, 896 preventive maintenance orders, 882 closed. So that just gives you an idea of what that staff's doing. And you don't see them out every day. They're working behind the scenes. They're the ones looking at when a piece of equipment goes down. They come in and help us get it fixed or get us a replacement. And sometimes those replacements are rented just so we can have to stop services. So just want to give a shout out to them and let you guys know what they're doing. So let's see here. Got lots of notes today, so I'm going to go to the next page. NOWADA. Let's talk about NOWADA a little bit. There's been a lot of talk about a new service line opening there. We have been working for quite some time to get physical therapy and occupational therapy to that clinic. We talk about it all the time, or I talk about the fact that we want to provide services at every one of our clinics the same. And so that's been a little lacking in NOWADA, so we've been working on that. Even with the expansion, having the space to do it, it's not there to do what we need to do with physical therapy and occupational therapy. So we're bringing in a portable building or a prefab building. So we've been doing the work, getting the utilities ready, getting everything ready to be able to place that building. Once that building's placed, we expect to have those services opening up about mid-March. So mid-March to April, we should get our physical therapy and occupational therapy up and running in NOWADA. Claremore, let's talk a Any questions so far? Do I need to stop, give you guys a chance to ask any questions? Chair, you want me to keep going? Okay. All right, Claremore. Claremore is another animal of its own. We're still working very hard on trying to assess what that facility looks like. There's a lot of transition going on with them. So as you know, if you've been watching the news, there's been an early buyout. There's been early retirement talk. We really don't know what that workforce is going to look like right now because we don't know or haven't been given the information of who is going to take any of those opportunities. We anticipate that in the next few weeks we should know that number. That may change some of the things we're doing. So we're really waiting on them to give us some information back. We're working with our GR team and with our Oklahoma delegation to try to get some of the things that need to be repaired at that building repaired before we take it over. There's a lot of things that aren't up to the same level that we would expect in our health system. We've started making notes of those things. We've been working with their FM crew to understand what the capacity looks like, things that are outdated and need to be replaced for a long time. I don't know what the reason is they haven't been replaced, but we're working with our group to try to, government relations and our Oklahoma delegation, to try to get some type of legislation that keeps IHS on the hook after we take that facility over. I don't know if we'll be successful. We hope we are because it's a very big expense, and we don't know how we're going to be able to take that on also. They are on the hook for a certain amount of time, but that timetable is not long enough to get these things repaired. And one of the things that we're talking about that's very specific is the boilers or the air units in that facility. The lead time on getting new air handlers is 10 months. So even if they ordered them today, they would not be ready to be put in by the time that we take over that facility. So we're trying to extend that timeline, hold them accountable a little longer. We meet with IHS every other week, our team and government relations, and we're in the negotiation phase of the acquisition. So that takes a lot of our time right now. We have a lot of lawyers in the room, and as you know, when you're going through those conversations, they are pretty lengthy. And they're looking out for the best of their side. We're looking out for the best of our side. So that's ongoing. Let's talk a little bit about service lines. I just want to give you some information on some numbers that came in from last year as those numbers have rolled into us. One note, audiology. We've expanded audiology. We anticipate to have another audiologist on board shortly. I think they were interviewing last week for our fourth audiologist. I know that's been something that you get a lot of feedback on, and I know that we have a waiting list there, so we're working on getting that service line expanded. We're hoping that with the acquisition of Claremore, we'll also be able to expand it in the Claremore facility. We'll see how that goes. Dental will be rolling out some new mobile units. That's going to be coming up pretty shortly. We'll be going out to the schools. We have two of those. One will focus on the northern half of the reservation, and one will focus on the southern half of the reservation. And their main focus is going to the schools, doing the sealant program, doing the fluoride program. We may utilize it in some cases with sports physicals and things of that nature. So we're still kind of developing that and getting permissions from all the different schools on who's going to allow us to come and set up and who's not. So that's ongoing. Starting in February, we're going to have our first pediatric neurologist 2 days a week here at CNOC. That's a new addition, and that's in preparation for our NICU that we'll be putting in the hospital. Part of the requirements is to have a pediatric neurologist on staff. So we've anticipated that and started working toward that. Even though we may not be able to open the NICU the day we open our hospital, we're still working right now, getting closer and closer to getting that service line added. Lab services. Last year, our lab services did 3.5 million in-house labs for the health system, and we sent out about 310,000. So that group is very, very busy. This time of year, all the different tests for flu, RSV, all those things are coming through. So that's a very busy group too. And we did about 23,000 pathology specimens that were sent out and evaluated. Contract health, that's something that every one of you touch in this building, or everybody gets questions about. We're doing, when I first took this job, and last time that I reported this number to you, we were doing about 11,000 a month in referrals, but as our volumes go up, our referrals go up. So we're doing around 13,500 a month now, and that's just referrals that are processed through our contract health department. And then you take that number and say 98% of them are approved, that's a big number. So it's a very, very small number that don't get approved. We have taken on the new dynamic of contract health for the UKB and how they come through our system, and we process those out, which added another leg of processing or processes that we had to develop inside of our system. And to date, we've done about 41 of those. Not very many, but they are increasing each month. Next thing is recruitment. So recruitment, we have 479 providers in our system. That's dentists, docs, occupational therapists, physical therapists, all the different types of providers that provide care in our system. Of those, we have 16 vacancies out of 479 currently. I did talk to some people this morning, and we have several of those 16 are already in the process of being interviewed. So we anticipate that we'll get some of those closed in the next month or so. So that gives us about a 3.3% vacancy rate. Pretty low. And look at nationwide, we're doing very well in retention and recruitment. Some numbers that you'd be interested in. In 2019, when I took this job, we were 11% of our providers were Cherokee. Today, 45% are Cherokee. So we definitely focus on Cherokee providers and trying to bring them into our system. That's a huge number increase from the last time that we looked at these numbers back in 2019. We monitor them yearly, but I don't always report them, so just thought we'd do that today. The other aspect that we're always looking at, or that we're really looking at right now, is AI. How is artificial intelligence going to affect the healthcare system? There's lots of opportunities out there right now, lots of talk about different things. We're trying to be very cautious and conservative on what we bring in. We don't want to buy it twice, so we're evaluating a lot of different products right now. As a matter of fact, some of my team members and myself are going to a conference to look at all the different opportunities that are out there where we get to actually see demos. We're going to be doing that in March. We do see some places where it's going to help us immediately. One of the places is working with our providers where they can dictate a note, and that AI helps them write their note and place their orders for the patient. That will speed up our providers so they're not sitting there and typing everything in. That's the most impactful thing we see currently on the market. It's still being developed, but we're going to get to see the most recent develops here in the next month. So we're looking forward to that. Last thing I want to talk about, I think it's the last thing, let me look here, is surveys and accreditations. We did have a recent survey with Jack Brown where the accreditation body came in and looked at Jack Brown facility and looked across how they're doing business and all the different policies and how we conduct our business throughout the year. They passed with flying colors, and they even had a special accreditation for their alcohol and drug abuse program. So they got acknowledged not only for having a great program, but doing something a little above and beyond, and that got cited in their report. Baldrige Quality Award. We talked about this, I think, maybe 6 or 8 months ago. I brought up that we were going to go for a Baldrige Award. Now, for those of you that don't know what a Baldrige Award is, it is a quality award that's given out on the state level, and then once you get through that process, you can go for a national Baldrige Award. There are different levels that you can get on a Baldrige Award. They look at everything. They come in and they bring surveyors in, and and they look at our whole health system from top to bottom. They spend days with our employees. We provide them a tremendous amount of information. We decided to do this about 8 months ago. It was brought to us as a kind of a challenge to do it. A lot of people and a lot of businesses prepare for years before they do a survey. But our team has a bunch of go-getters, and they kept on until they said, we can do this, let's get it done, and let's just go for it. So we did, with about 6 months worth of preparation and getting ready, putting an application together, which is a very short timeline considering how many years people put applications together for this. We were awarded the highest level that Oklahoma gave out this year, which is an award of excellence. There is one level higher than that. We were a little disappointed that we didn't get that absolute high, but I can tell you that the amount of time we spent putting together, I was very, very proud of our team for achieving the highest level that Oklahoma gave out this year. As a matter of fact, we're going to be honored, and we're going to be attending an award ceremony where we'll talk about our health system. So it's a great accomplishment. We will probably modify our application a little bit. The only piece that we were missing was long-term results because we haven't been tracking that for very long. The way we do our health system now has only been in progress for about 5 years, and so 5 to 6 years, and so we need a little bit longer results to be able to get to that top level. We think we can do that in another year or two. So we're going to be continuing to work on that. Now, the last thing I want to say is this is just what I gave you as a simple, very small piece of what goes on in health every day. All our people are working very, very hard. They take what they do very personally. And the one thing that I guess it's my own personal feelings that I want to convey to you is I know, they know, we're entering into political season. Please be kind, be patient. They don't want to be on the front lines of the politics, although we are the biggest department, and we know we will. There's no way around it. Just be kind, be patient, know that we're going to make every effort to meet everyone's expectation. We don't come to work wanting to do a bad job. No one does, and that we all take it very personally. And they're all going to be out there voting also. So I know that this time of year always gets a little bit tenuous, and our people tend to hang on to those comments and keep them with them for a long time. So just be aware of that. Defend us where you can. We're doing the best job we can for you. So with that, I'll close and turn it back over to you, Chair.
Mike?
Well, Dr. Jones, first of all, I'd like to say, we had a really good conversation the other day. It was a long conversation, and I would just like to say thank you for your report today. I was very impressed with that. As we talked about the other day, you guys do so many positive things, and it's good to hear those things. I mean, if we don't hear them, we don't know.
Right.
And it's great. And it's just not one area. You covered a lot of different areas, a lot of different places, and I think it was a great report. I really loved it. It tells us a lot about what's going on, and we need to be informed. In the AI deal, that's exciting. I know that doctors, have to spend so long on making notes, and it really cuts down on the people you can see. So that would be a real big benefit in your award that you won. That's outstanding, and congratulations. Gosh, so many good things going on. It's great to hear them. And we tend to get a lot of negativity. If something bad happens, we get it. And people are talking to us, and we relay it. And when we fix things, we can. I mean, when you guys can fix things, you can. And I would just like to say thank you. I thought it was a great report. Okay. So, I hope everybody else feels that way. So, again, very thorough.
We'll continue to shape it this way and try to focus on different parts of the health system. I tried to pick out a few things that were year-end reports, but there's a lot going on, and it's hard to hit it all. So
unbelievable with the stuff going on, and even the contract health. I mean, gosh dang it, that's a lot of referrals, that's a ton. So we need to keep that in mind too. But you look at how many is denied and accepted, I mean, 98% is really good.
Yeah,
So,
it is.
all right, thank you again.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Let's see, Danny?
Yeah, Doc, I got two deals here. On your third-party revenue, was the state of Oklahoma changed Sooner Care, I think, last April? Did that kind of hit us a little bit?
Eligibility does. So they changed the eligibility requirements, and so there's not as broad a group that are eligible for services. So that's where our patient benefit coordinators come in, and they try to find those opportunities for coverage in ways that are creative, because it not only helps us when someone's covered, but it helps the patient in case they can't get to us. If they're in a situation where they're outside the reservation and they need to go somewhere, it helps to cover them. So, yeah, there's a big change going on, and we anticipate there's going to be more change. There's a lot of things going on in our government right now. We're looking at grants. The last few weeks, we've been looking at what grants are going to be affected by the different changes that are happening within the federal government, and how are any of those grants going to impact any of our programs or any of our staff that are working on grants. So those are things that we have to try to anticipate and manage, and it's just like in Medicaid the same way. That eligibility requirements is impacting us, but our volume is staying up or getting bigger, and so it kind of more volume, less, we keep the bottom line the same. So that's kind of what we're working on right now.
And second question, you mentioned the Claremore Indian Hospital. You know, you and I had this conversation. We know that they offer services that doesn't always fall without different things going into our services. Are we going to try to maybe educate the public that, as Chief said, we're not going to cut out anything. We're not really cutting them out, but they just fall under different circumstances with our health than what it does with IHS?
So right now, our main goal or our main function with Claremore is in an advisory capacity. So we have people that are stationed there full-time. We're meeting with them weekly with their leadership and our leadership. We have our senior directors meeting with their department heads. We've actually brought a lot of them onto our campus to show them how we work, show them our expectations, but we're not making any decisions on anything right now. They're guiding to get ready for us. So any decisions that are being made right now are made by their leadership. We were fortunate to be asked our opinion whenever they hired a medical director. There was one of the applicants, as I told you last time, was Dr. Nix, who's a Cherokee applicant, and he was hired in that capacity. They did ask us for our opinion. We gave our opinion, and we were glad that they worked with us on that, knowing that that would be our medical director when we get to that point. So there are some things that they've given us the opportunity to have some input on. Mostly it's showing them what our scope of care is, showing them what our expectations are, show them what when our providers, this is our expectation on how they schedule patients. So they've been open to that, and we've seen a lot of improvement internally, but it's not we're not saying you have to do this. This is what we're doing, this is what we're getting ready for, and they've been more than open to listen to how we're doing it.
Sasha?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report, Dr. Jones. A couple of questions. Number one, we had emailed back and forth briefly last Tuesday, just wondering if you had time to obtain that information that you could visit with me after.
I have a little bit of information on it, but I don't have the whole story yet.
Okay.
Okay? We just recently, in the last month, or probably the last 5 to 6 weeks, we've moved a section of HR underneath health. Mm-hmm. They're still getting organized on who's doing what job, and we're meeting every other week with Samantha Hendricks and the director of the health portion of HR and myself to determine what things stay in the overall umbrella, what responsibilities are going to fall under us. So there's been some confusion about who has access to what information. I haven't got everything that I need to before I visit with you on it.
Okay, thank you. Next question. You had mentioned some phase openings for the hospital. Do you know which phases will be being rolled out in which phase when we open up?
We have the initial opening will be with what we currently have, our staff that we have currently. We are hiring a few positions to help us on new service lines to get ready for those service lines. But initially, the first phase is going to be moving our current staff over to the hospital, and then we're going to expand from there. Now, will that be 6 months? Will that be a year? I don't know exactly. It depends on how smooth those transitions go, and it depends on the budget, because I'm going to be coming this next year with adding positions to the budget. And if the chief approves, then we will push it to you guys, and if you guys approve, then we'll be anticipating our transition according to what we can pay for.
Okay. And looking at the numbers here, we talk about recruitment and retention, and we have, a big influx for inpatient stays in our ED and urgent care staff. They're kind of our first line, and very appreciative for their hard work, especially all the time, but especially during this time, seeing so many patients. Were we able to reach a agreement on our contracts with our physicians?
I won't get into specifics about contracts with employee negotiation, but I will say that I think they were all very happy with the contracts that they got.
Okay. And last question. Could you provide any information on eligibility criteria for the denture program?
For the denture program, we do have a trifold or a pamphlet, and I'll have Dr. Looney send that out to whoever, I guess the chief's office, and let the liaison pass that through. But we do have an actual criteria that lists everything out specifically and what the requirements are to get into that program.
Oh, yes, if we could get our hands on that, please.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Kevin? That denture program is something we still contract out. We don't do that in-house.
Right, but there are eligibility requirements, and those all, and I will say that they do have a income qualification on it. I don't keep up with it like I used to, because that's kind of in the weeds, and Dr. Looney does that. But that changes every year according to the guidelines that are set out by the federal government, and so I don't know specifically what those guidelines are currently, but we update that pamphlet, and they should be bringing those to the community meetings too, because that's something that we always had on hand.
Junior?
Yes, on that behavioral health facility, you say it's on schedule. Roughly, do you know when the completion date is supposed to be?
Roughly in the summer of next year.
Summer next year.
Yeah. We have everything kind of lined out. We have Salina opening this, in the end of this year, summer. We have the acquisition of Claremore. We have the opening of the hospital, or the acquisition, or the taking on the hospital when we're given the keys to the building, and then that facility should follow that. So everything is kind of lined out and spaced out so that we have a little bit of breathing room between each one.
Thank you.
Sasha?
Sorry, just following up. Whenever you get that information to Chief's office, can you also send that to Gail to disseminate to all the council, please?
And I assume that's usually what happens. It usually goes to Mr. Duncan, is my understanding, then he gives it to Gail and it gets disseminated out, but I'll check on that to make sure, but that's usually how the flow of information goes.
Yeah, just as long as we get it to Gail
Yeah.
and she can get it to us too.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Any other questions for Dr. Jones? Thank you for your report.
All right.
Dr.
You're
Jones,
welcome.
appreciate it. Thank you. Captain Murray. Welcome. Glad you're here today.
Glad to be here. Good afternoon, everyone. As always, you should have the report. I do have a few hot topics for Claremore. It's been a really busy time over the last month. First, the ER. The ER has seen an influx in patients. I would assume that's similar with Cherokee Nation. Flu-like symptoms, COVID-like symptoms. Seen a 24% increase, actually, in January of 25 compared to January of 24. What that's resulted in is a little bit of an increase in wait times. And in order to combat that, last week we moved 3 patient care beds and stations within the ER into our former physical therapy unit. If you're familiar with the hospital, the ER and former physical therapy are next to each other. Physical therapy has since moved across to Annex 1 a few months prior into the new physical therapy area. That allowed us to use that former space as a flex space within the ER. Additionally, we were able to draw on our contract with Oklahoma State ER physicians. They supply us with board-certified physicians. They were able to provide an additional physician to staff that particular area. It's allowed us to get that influx under control, see those patients, and make sure we keep that left without being seen rate as low as possible. Secondly is in an effort to standardize scheduling. The first clinic that we're going to do this with, standardized with Cherokee Nation, I should say, with their model, is our surgery clinic. And we started that at the beginning of February. That allowed us to increase available surgery appointments, depending on the day of the week, between 14 and 16 appointments, with the ultimate goal of increasing surgery and scopes at the hospital. So that's been going on for a week now, and I think last week we actually did have 14 additional appointments on that schedule that were booked and seen. So pretty excited about that, and that should start increasing the surgeries down the road once we get those patients in for their surgical appointments. Lastly, and this is something we've been working on for some time, is a remodel, X-ray room 3 or our fluoroscopy room. We purchased a new unit. As of February 1st, it has been installed. Then on February 5th, I believe, it was up and running. We got training completed in that 5-day period, and last week we started to see patients in that fluoroscopy room. So it's a service we haven't had for about a year now. That was about the time it took to get the new system in, online. It required an entire remodel of that room. The unit hangs from the ceiling, so we had to go in and gut the room, put new iron supports in the ceiling. So it was a little more cumbersome than just switching out units. It required extensive construction. But happy to have that back now. That'll keep us from having to refer those patients out. We can keep them in-house and provide that service. Those are the 3 bullets I have. Do you have any questions for today?
Questions for Captain Murray? I see none. Thank you, Captain, for your report.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, up next, Cherokee Nation Public Health, and Kim Chukalate's going to give us the report.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Hello.
Lisa sends her regards. The report is in the packet, and I did put a handout in front of you guys for our 2025 wings schedule. We finally got that approved, and so you guys have that in your hands. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Kim? Cody?
I seen where y'all are getting ready for summer EBT 2025. I was just curious, how do public schools go about, I guess, applying to be a part of that program with you guys? Or do you guys reach out to them, or how does that process work?
I'm not exactly sure the complete process, but I can get some information and get
Okay.
that back to you
Okay.
so we can,
Sure.
everybody will know.
Thank you.
Yes, I'll make sure that's noted for next time.
Kendra?
Hello, Kimberly.
Hello.
Thank you so much. You know, I'm an avid runner, and I have utilized the WINGS program for many, many years, and this looks like a great schedule to me. It looks like there's a couple more on here. Have we added some new runs
We
this year?
did, yes. We actually, in April, we will have a trail run here in Tahlequah. For those who are a little bit more adventurous, I guess, you can try a trail run. And then we'll have, we've added one in November, the Healthy Native 5K, and that will help complement our efforts for diabetes awareness. We did the outreach, as you guys know. Some of you guys took part in some of the screenings and things like that. And so that's just going to complement the awareness efforts that we have in November for diabetes.
Great, I love that. And I did have one more question.
Sure.
If someone, I have a couple of different groups who've contacted me about potentially being placed on the WINGS schedule in the future, what's the process for that?
To try and get a wings race in
Sanctioned,
your area.
yeah. Mhm.
We have a community outreach program, so Jeff Tucker would be a
Okay.
contact, and I can get you his information. He would be
Okay, perfect, thank
the
you.
contact person to try and see that.
Any other questions for Kim? Thank you for the report, Kim.
Thank you.
Okay, I see no old business pending, no new business pending. Are there any announcements, particularly healthcare related, that we need to make? I will make one. In August 1st, there's going to be a new medical school open in Bentonville called Alice Walton School of Medicine. That's in Bentonville. It's an allopathic school, meaning that their degree is an MD degree. But as you all know, we have a very strong partnership with Oklahoma State. But I thought I'd at least mention that because all of our I'd say any qualified Cherokee should be able to find a landing spot in med school, because probably per capita, we probably have more medical school opportunities in this area than in the country. Because we have, of course, Oklahoma State, our own Tahlequah School. We've got Joplin has a school, medical school, a DO school. Bentonville now has this allopathic school. Fort Smith has a medical school. OU Tulsa, of course, is within hour's drive or so, but lots of opportunities for young Cherokees especially. Okay. Need one more motion. Motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye. Motion approved. We're adjourned.